All right. So, Rabbi Yuri Foreman, you were born in Gulamis, Belarus, right? I pronounced that correctly?
Goma. But you know what? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how you spell it. I'm not going there anyway, though.
Yeah. And you started boxing when you were 7?
I was 7 years old, yes.
And then you moved to Israel when you were 9 years old?
10.
10? Okay. And then I saw that you started boxing at an Arab gym?
Yes, in Israel. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's unique. And then after you had a successful amateur career in Israel, you came to Brooklyn, New York to continue your boxing career. So just to start off, can you tell us a bit about your background, where you're from, and how you first got involved with boxing?
Yeah. Baruch, thank you very much for... It was actually Wikipedia correct according to Wikipedia. Briefly is it was still Soviet Union, and I left. When I left, it was still Soviet Union. So technically, I left the country that was already no longer existing. In Soviet Union, being a Jew, it's okay if I say Jew. Some people know that a Jewish Jew was not very popular kind of saying, So 7. The what? Excuse me.
Wait, what happened?
Oh. Everything. You guys hear me, right?
I think you're good.
Okay. So, I start first. My parents sent me to be a swimmer at age 7, and in Soviet Union, one of the few good things. Everything was for free in terms of sport, athletic education, and education itself. It was free. So first, I went to a swimming pool and I got bullied a couple times, called a couple names, and then no clue why I've been attacked. I could probably suggest, only guess now, because I was Jewish, because according to whatever the profanities the kids was saying to me, I got bullied and I came home with the marks on my face, and my mom took me to the gym literally the next day, to boxing gym, and it's kind of changed my life. One of I think positive things that happened after starting boxing at age 7. Really, I already realized that at 7 years old, I realized that I want to be a boxer. I want to be a world champion. So that was my pretty much introduction to boxing. And unfortunately, most of the introductions to boxing, you have to go through kind of a beat up, kind of you have to get beat up first and start thinking about defending yourself. My mom was a very loving person, and but she didn't. She was also kind of giving me a lot of tough love, and she said, you will have to defend yourself next time, Sonny. And that's it. I started boxing and had a couple fights from 7. I did boxing from 7 till 10, and then at age 10, my parents decided to move to Israel, to immigrate, and not because of pursuing their Jewish goals, rather of all this perestroika era and the fall of Soviet Union. It was inevitable, I think. And my parents was thinking about some land that could give them more opportunities. And that was a land that flows with milk and honey. That's the beginning.
So So what happened? So when you got to Israel, when did you become like an amateur boxer?
In Israel, you know what? It's interesting because I assume all of you been in Israel at some point, right? It's interesting that even when I was already there, as a teenager, for example, when I was looking at the map of Israel and the location, the geographic location of Israel, I was like, damn, we are surrounded by not so friendly people, like literally. The only friendliness it comes, the sea, the Mediterranean. There's no threat from there, and when I got to the country, I was very surprised. The two main sports in the country is soccer and basketball. And European level, basketball they're doing pretty good, amateur level, whatever how you call it, college level. But soccer, man, they're not very good at all, And I was asking my dad, like, when Israel gonna qualify for the World Cup? And my dad looks at me like, Yuri, I'm gonna be already dead. But and you too, Yuri. So it was very surprising that boxing was not or any kind of a martial arts was not even popular in Israel. I don't know why. And I was in the beginning. My parents was each of them had two jobs, and after school I used to travel, taking a bus and going to my first mom work, helping her there. She was cleaning offices. Then my dad also cleaning offices. So I was helping them after the school. I was 10 years old, 5th grade, and look, whenever you are actually making some kind of whenever you think about moving to a greener pastures, it's not necessarily going to be greener pastures since the beginning. You have to be, learn the language. Life is not going to be necessarily very kind to you. And I learned that, and it was a good lessons for me. And shortly after in Israel, I picked up boxing again. I believe there was about maybe 3 years, 2.5, 3 years break from Soviet Union to boxing again. So I started my amateur career there. I represented Israel in international competitions, and I became 3-time national champion over there. And I was like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, but for example, Zachary and Barrow. Honestly, I think if you go to Israel, I guarantee probably in 2 years you'll also be a national champion. So, maybe I exaggerated a little bit, but what I just said earlier.
It's not like there's not many competitors out there.
Yeah, it's Arabs and Russian or former Soviet Union immigrants, and very, very few of like native Israelis. So that was like the main two classes of boxers. It's I don't know if you guys had a chance to check out the history of boxing. For example, in the United States, in 20s and 30s, boxing here in the United States used to be a Jewish sport. That's a historical fact. One of the greatest world champions in 20s and 30s, like Barney Rose, Benny Leonard, name just a few. There were about 60 to 70% of all world champions are Jews. And it shouldn't be overlooked. It's very often overlooked by Jewish communities, for example, because there was a lot of tough Jews. But one thing is, they were all immigrants. They came from Russia, Europe in 20s and early. And boxing used to give to this less fortunate, as they say today, less fortunate, an opportunity. You don't speak language. You don't have good grades at school. Boxing can still, just because if you have some talent and guts in certain areas, for example, you are boxing giving you opportunity of a very lucrative paydays and kind of making paving a way to others. So yeah, so same thing was just like immigrants from Europe and Russia were here in the 20s and 30s. Same thing, and I was an immigrant, and boxing was already my sport. And one of the, I think, main thing is, and I sometimes I mention that to people that I had an advantage over a lot of people, because at age 7 I already knew what I want to do. Like all my desires, all my attention, all my emotions, so to speak, they went to boxing. And that, I think, is something. It's important. Just doesn't matter, a young kid or even someone who already have some gray hair. It's important to set goals. And I learned first. Me personally, I learned so many things. My very good friends was telling me in Israel that, Yuri, before I told him I'm going to go to the United States, I want to be the next Rocky, because I was watching a lot of Rocky movies. And my good friends was telling me that, I'll see you in half a year because you're going to be coming back. It's Yuri, don't forget, it's 1 in a million. It's 1 in a million. And I don't think you will make it. So it gave me light, a little fire. This is the fire. Under my ass, and it kind of made me work harder.
Yeah, I mean, in 1999, when you moved to the U.S., you even made it to the New York Golden Gloves finals, 2000. So, can you tell us a little bit about that competition, and then the next year, I think you lost in the finals that year, but then 2001 you came back and won the tournament.
Actually, 2000 I lost in the finals,
right?
And 2001 I won.
Yeah. So how did that defeat in 2000 lead you to your success the next year? Can you tell us a little bit about the competitions?
So competition was very tough because Golden Gloves in New York. They actually, by the way, they renamed that now because the Daily News no longer sponsoring Golden Gloves, so it became something else now. They're giving little trophies, but it used to be the oldest and most prestigious. Sorry,
you got it.
No, even though my wife sometimes saying that English is not your first language, but I've been already living here 20 years, and
you figure, yeah, you're great.
Better than Russian and Hebrew now. So it most prestigious people traveling from different states to compete in. There's a lot, every weight category. The weight category, for those who doesn't know, we're all coming in a different size and weights and whatever size differences. So there's 12 weight categories in amateurs, and so I was at that time in 2000. I was 147 pounds, and I was I didn't know much about nutrition like I know today. For example, I was 19 years old, and sometimes it was very hard for me to make 147. Killing myself. I would come. Let's say the fights. It would be Thursday night. Wednesday night, I will be close to 160. And I have to lose 13 to make weight. And sometimes 10 weight. And I would put sweater and 3 shirts, sweater, and there's like a sweatsuit, and I would be for 2 hours jumping rope till I'm making my 147, the limit. And just now, even with the horror, sometimes I remember that and how stupid it was.
I did wrestling. I kind of know that feeling. Sometimes being a little bit overweight, you gotta just lose it.
Horrible feeling. It drains you mentally, spiritually, physically, most important. And yeah, so I was fighting a very tough fighter in the final, and it was 4 rounds, and we went toe to toe. Many people thought that I won, and it was close decision, and they just gave it to him. I'm okay with that. But I was very tired at the end of the fight because the weight was just killing me. And my neck moved up the weight, 156, and the next year I won. And shortly after I turned professional.
Right. So speaking of that, in January 2002, you began your professional career against Israel Felix, where you won by a knockout. And then in March 2002, you beat Tommy Attardo, and less than a week later, you beat George Armenta.
Yeah.
So
true. Yeah. Yeah, it was quite a few fights back to back.
Right. Because don't boxers usually take off a couple months in between fights nowadays?
So nowadays, if you watch big fights, they take a few months in between. Not necessarily they are watching TV, Netflix, and eating hamburgers for a couple months. No, they are taking maybe a couple weeks of break because it's necessary for recovery, mental and physical, and then they're going back like kind of a light trainings. That's usually happened, but those couple months in between, those we're talking about big fights. Big fights when there is about 10 to 12 rounds fights. You know, it's for each fight like that, it's preparation about 8 weeks. So you need a rest period between them. My fights, my first I believe 3-4 fights were scheduled for 4 rounds only. And so I could continue fighting every other 2 weeks or 3 weeks. So I had my first.
Minimum amount of rounds for a professional fight.
I'm sorry, what?
Like if you're doing a professional fight, don't they have like it must be like minimum of 10? Like doesn't it have to like how could 4 rounds like allowed for a professional fight?
Yeah. So in amateurs, each round is 2 minutes. Professional is 3 minutes. And when you turn professional, you're not starting with going with the jumping, fighting. I don't know what's the metaphor. Jumping in the water with the sharks. You know, you want to feel first of all, you don't wear headgear. Your gloves are much more thinner and are much more primitive gloves, and they putting usually in amateur gloves they put kind of a foam, like a synthetic whatever foam. Some professional gloves are filled with horse hair, you know. So it's like hardly even feel anything. So most of the beginning fights, you are having 4 rounds fights, then 6, then 8, then 10. And so I was pretty much, I had couple 4, and then I had 6, and then I moved to 8, and then by the 8, your ranking is they already start noticing you, and they start following your ranking, and then that's where like some people start when you're getting already close to 8 rounds. People start noticing you. Just saying, it depends how you look also. If you're going fighting even 4 or 10 rounds and very uneventful style, for example, or very boring fights, that is, it's after all, it's a show business, and you have to sell. Yep. So that, yeah.
Okay. So how do you how do you go from amateur to professional? Do you have to beat someone to become a professional, or like someone just picks you up?
So honestly, Zachary, if you want to turn professional, you can turn professional probably tomorrow. You just have to pass all the physicals.
Okay.
They're gonna take a picture of you. They're gonna give you let's say New York State professional fighter. I highly recommend just in when you go into the club, they ask you for ID, and you just give it a pro fighter, pro boxer. It's gonna gives you a little a little street report or street credit. So it's not that easy, just mentally. If you are serious about it, age 22, I was 21 and a half. I thought that I'm ready. I'm ready to mentally. I'm ready for a real deal.
Yeah, I mean, what was the early stage of your career like when you're professional, was it tough finding professional the first few years? What were some of the biggest challenges?
It was because partly because my trainer, that I was also partly living with him, it was he was how you say a narcissist, a sociopath, and just one of the most horrible human beings that it was like how you say a dangerous personality. If he would go for psychiatric analysis, it was no doubt he would be a sociopath and narcissist. So my life in general at that time was my boxing was not as much more harder, I think, than it should have been, because that person is very negative and very abusive in many forms. And till I left them at some point. But that's a different story. It was different in terms of because you don't wear a headgear, and anytime they are hitting you in the head, for example, you feel every single punch, and that's that. And you guys could relate when you're doing something very important in your life, in present or previous events, whether it's athletic or you're running. And when you're running, for example, everybody runs. I run very often. I run every other day, and I hear the little voice in my head. You're getting tired. You're getting tired. Your legs hurts. My legs was, for example, one that very sore, and they were saying, your legs sore. You have to save it. Don't push it too hard. When I get hit in the ring or in the sparring or in training, there's this voice every single time he speaks to me. He says that you got hit very hard. Take a knee. Live now and fight another day. And we all encountering this voice. I don't know about you. I'm sure you have some challenges. Everybody going through challenges, and that's just how Hashem, I guess, that was his kind of a sixth sense of humor. He cannot grow, I guess, unless there is a gravity pull, so to speak. You kind of have to deal with this inner voice, and it's interesting. Now I'm 40. Now I'm 40 years old, and it's interesting. Before it was upsetting me. I was telling to every single person, I see someone is getting tired, they're right away taking the dial on if they're running or Stairmaster, and they'll lower it down because they want to be comfortable. Everybody loves comfortable. You want to do Stairmaster, you don't want to do Stairmaster for 30 minutes intensive. Rather, you want to do for, 40 minutes, but barely sweating, just movement, And that's not just with sports. It's our nature as a human beings is choosing a path of least resistance. You're going from point A to B. You're choosing. You're hoping it's going to be a straight line, but the life have different. The universe, Hashem, God, have different plans and putting stumbling blocks. And I know a lot of friends of mine who are, got stumbled, and they quit, and they done. They just doing their job, 9 to 6, and they are very terribly unhappy, They are feeling that they are somebody's sucking a soul out of them, So what I'm saying, I turned 40, and imagine, like there's quite a few people over the time been messaging me, writing me messages, texts, commenting on some posts that Yuri, this sport is for the young people. Hang your gloves, enjoy the life. And my response is, I'm enjoying life, and that's how I enjoy my life. It's important sometimes to risk instead of not risking it, and then when you are old, you're feeling like, I wish I actually tried my best back then.
Tom Brady's still going, and he's like 45.
Yeah, Tom Brady is, true. Yeah, and it's not just 45; he's killing it.
Yeah,
it's not
better than ever.
It's a savage, It's just like a savage who is, and not in a bad term. It's just a savage that most of the people are saying that he's a savage. No, but it's a mentality. When you are going to university, for example, you are in university, but like you have your, I don't know, homeworks. Look, I never graduated. So, by the way, it's just an honor for me to talking to you guys, to really educated people. That you have to be a savage. You have to be a savage. You have to be, okay, if you don't like the savage, you have to be kick-ass. You have to be kind of in a way that you have to, unless it hurts, you don't train. If you went to the gym and you came back and nothing hurts, you didn't work. You didn't work hard enough. Unless your heart is beating to the point that you start having, I don't know, a little bit of blurred vision, you worked. You worked, and you could just do a congratulations to yourself because you deserve it. And that's what I think people, just in general, they have to be kind of a savages. And sports out there, why everybody likes sports? Baseball, basketball, whatever you name it, because you see someone is standing out from others, like Brady, for example, he or Jordan. Why everybody loves Jordan? But Jordan is because he went first to the court and they left last, And with your studies, you have to be doing the same. You have to be a savage, just like you're going to the rink. You have to, I'm sure, have plans what you want to do in life, not just from the point of what kind of good pay is that the good paid, the job that I'm going to get. But you want to really enjoy and change the world and feel good about yourself. Sorry, my phone fell.
So speaking of studies, you studied for a while. You have smicha, right?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Maybe 4 years in United States, and you have to be kind of like, I appreciate United States from one of the things, because I experienced, I think, there's the saying, American dream. American dream is very interesting word, or saying, not the word. My first experience here, I had to work. I had to support myself. So I was working from 9 to 6. Yeah, from 9 to 6. And I was traveling from Bay Ridge. So sometimes it take me an hour and a half just to get traveling, commuting. So basically wake up at 7, And after 9 to 6, I used to run from, I was working in the Garment District and 42nd Street, 39th Street to be exact, and 7th Avenue, between 7 and 8. And I was running, after that, I was running to Gleason Gym, which is over in Dumbo. It's about 40 minutes run. And, you're tired, you're exhausted, and you still have to work on the whole point why you came to this country, And I was training, I was tired, but I had to push myself. I would always do a 2-hour session, and then back home, closer to 10 and 10:30, and then wake up, and that was just continuous for almost the first 3.5 years was just continuous Groundhog Day. I don't know if you guys seen the movie Groundhog Day. Yeah, it was like all repetitive and very often. And then this voice was coming to me that you're tired, you're exhausted, go back home, go back home to Israel. And it was very close. As a matter of fact, when my dad was sending me back to United States, he gave me a ticket only one way. He never gave me two tickets both ways. He told me, well, Yuri, I assume you're going to be working then, so if you want to go back, you work, you get yourself a ticket. If you're really in trouble, of course, I'm going to get you a ticket, But it was especially when my sociopath trainer was abusing me verbally, very verbally, and the worst thing actually, it's not that abuse, the way he called me, whatever, and this and that. I started to believe what he was saying. You understand? That's the worst thing. When you start believing the person, when for example, he says shit towards me and etc. All this thing, and I start believing that I am. And that was worse. And that's when I kind of fell really bottom, kind of spiritual bottom or mental bottom. And I thought, I'm going to pack up my stuff when he's at work, and I'm going to, that's at JFK, and I'm just going to go back to Israel. And I always remember this voice of my friend saying that, I'll see you in 6 weeks, see you in 6 weeks or 6 months, he said. And I was like, no. I was like, let me just put my heels down and try. Maybe tomorrow going to get better. Maybe after tomorrow. And at that time, I discovered spirituality. I thought, well, Buddhism is kind of famous. I thought that, but then I thought, hey, I'm already Jew. Let me try it first. The closest to me. If I'm not going to like it, I'm going to try that, and then that's it. So I went to a shul nearby. It was like a couple blocks away. And I told myself, like I felt a little bit heart rate going up. Like, I'm going to sit in and there's a rabbi. And I thought, like, listen, I'm going to just try one class. And then, so this little rabbi comes in, Chabad rabbi, Chabad rabbis, how are you? Where are you for Shabbos? Did you put tefillin today? Stuff like that. So I went to the class. I was already professional. I had like maybe 5-6 fights as a professional fighter, and I was nobody really professional, like unknown. And the first thing that Rabbi started his class, there was maybe 10 people. I was just sitting in the corner listening to him, And rabbis, they have all this shtick, the way they are, just like you, Zakar, right now, okay, checking. Your Sfirat Homer beard. And he's like, looks at me, like looking at me, then looks in the window, and it says like, life is like 2 boxers in the ring. And I'm like, holy what? 2 boxers? I'm like thinking to myself, oh my goodness, like, there's no way he knows that I'm a boxer. And it says 2 boxers in the ring. And as boxers, sometimes you have big knock. One guy falls, and he looks in the lights, And when he looks in the lights, what boxer does? Everybody listening like, what boxer does? I said, well, boxer does is, he comes back and he continue fighting. It's like, and it says like, yes. So Judaism is giving you this koach, this inner spiritual koach, the power, the strength to continue swinging and swinging and swinging. It gives you the strength. And for the rest, like as soon as I said, I thought like, okay, I'm in the right place, right time. I was not a spiritual person, but I thought that divine timing was just perfect. And after the class, he introduced himself and asked my name, and then he says, "Where are you for Shabbos?" And I was like, "What Shabbos? What?" I was like, "You mean Saturday?" I was like, "Are you going somewhere?" I was like, "I'm going every Shabbos, or usually Friday nights." clubs or whatever. And it's like, you been on Shabbos? You ever been in for Shabbos? Like, I've never been. I never experienced it. I never like. So he's like, you come to my place, and that's it. I can't. How they say? They suck me in, Chabad, they do something that nobody else does. Once they got you, that's it. So yeah, and then for the rest of at least a year and a half, a year maybe, I was coming to the classes, and 99% of the class I didn't understand what he was even saying. My English was not very good, but he was a very acclaimed Mikubal or Kabbalist, Rabbi Dr. Pinson. So anything it was, my whole issue was how I'm not gonna fall asleep listening to him. Really sometimes it was very tired after the trainings, and so I was like, oh please, I don't want to fall asleep now. But it got me though. It got me, and I like the spiritual aspect of it. And even if you watch all the athletes, the Christian Jews, less Jews, but more Christians, they are praying. Praying is the power. It's a serious part of kind of a intention, mind intention. Even today, videos. You wanna give yourself your thought a little extra kick. Today we meditate. We're setting right attentions and intentions. So it's kind of got me, and I think it's helps me in boxing and my physical endeavors, my mental endeavors, and all the obstacles that I face. Judaism gives me a lot of meaning to it. I'm not looking right away. I'm a very reactive person. Before somebody pushes me, I'm pushing back, and they punch me, I punch back. But it's kind of keeps my feet on the ground, balanced, and dealing with stress. I think it's a very good way of dealing with stress. A deep inhale also helps, when you're driving and you're late and you cannot find parking.
Gotta refocus.
Yeah, refocus. It's important. Yes.
So, speaking of combining Judaism and helping you with boxing. So in 2007, I don't know if this is after you already met with Chabad, but
yeah.
You Andre Surkan to win your first professional belt, winning the NABF North American Boxing Federation light middleweight division. And after the fight, you wished everyone a happy Hanukkah.
Oh yeah, it was during third night or fourth night of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
It was a good day. It was a good day. It was a good timing. It was not Sfirat Omer or
there are other stories where you make a Kiddush Hashem like that, showing that we're Jews, and thoughts on that, being that famous celebrity, also being a Jew.
I remember the fight. The fight was tough. My goodness. Fighting Russian guy too, my personality is very easygoing. I like humor. I like jokes, good jokes. Before my Chabad rabbi, my rabbi was George Carlin. Before that, so even though he was not Jewish. But I remember this fight. I remember actually the press conference with this kid, Andre Surkan, and we had to stare. It's such a weird boxing, sport. When you have to stare down. When you're looking at each other, faces from this proximity, and you're looking at you, and they look, and I'm I'm looking in the face. How long I'm gonna look? More than 5 seconds and not smile at least, So I'm looking at him and kind of smile and just step on my tiptoes, just get a little bit taller than him, And he's with a Russian accent, this is not gonna help you. I was like, Well, I think it will. Shorter, I'm taller. But he gave me a very tough fight. I still beat him. But it was, and remind me in the end of the talk to give you the funny story from that fight. So I won the first NABF North American Boxing Federation. It was a big first step when you are kind of separated from men and boys. When you get this first title, suddenly you are placed into this top 10 in the world. Like you are among the top 10 best boxers, and you are making your way now towards your goal to be a world champion is literally like OMG. I'm like, I can see it from here, it was, by the way, it was Hanukkah, and Hanukkah is by the way, easy holiday. There's not so much observation besides lighting menorah and eating a lot of oily food.
Waffles, donuts.
A lot of people have heart disease during that time. Anyway, so I think we all part of us. We all Jewish. We're doing our personal journey into this Kiddush Hashem. To make not just sanctifying the name of God, but I believe that the God is also within you, since He is omniscient. He's everywhere. He's also that's omnipresent. He's everywhere. Omniscient. He knows every thought. Right? Am I correct? If you correct me.
I didn't even know that. Like, now it makes sense that you're saying it, but I didn't know that.
Yeah. So omnipresent is everywhere. Is in every single fiber and every single cell. And omniscient, He knows every thought. So He is partly. You are part of bigger. Yeah, if my rabbi would hear, if I would say bigger God, if you're part of the bigger God, he might be like, oh, this is
stuff.
But it is, because we're all having this inner voice that's gonna tell you that you are shit, you're not good. This inner voice, by the way, can come in the form of your parents. This inner voice could be the teacher. This inner voice could be your trainer. It could be your professor. It could be your best friend. This inner voice is everywhere. And we have friends. We have family. They're not necessarily all the time positive. And this is your way. How you're gonna handle this? How you will take it, because with the doctor, for example, you're going to a doctor for checkups, for example, checkups, and somebody have, for example, high blood pressure. They say if you're not changing your diet, if you're not lowering, you're gonna die within a year. And doctor, in our eyes, it's such an authority. If the doctor said it, then it must be true. And when you believe it must be true, eventually you're gonna die much sooner than you should be living. It's almost like a placebo effect. When someone is on Prozac all the time, they did the test, they did the study. By the way, person on the Prozac, they gave him a sugar pill, and he had a normal, just keeping his antidepressant at bay. Sugar pill. I'm not sure sugar pill is actually dealing with such things like depression, for example. But it's mine. It's a thought fixed it. It's thought believed in that, and it's took care of itself. I'm not saying that high blood pressure gonna go by just a thought. Yeah, you have to walk the walk and talk the talk and walk the walk. You have to take care of your diet, nutrition. But the authority, it's back to our friends or your family member. You could be your mother, be your father. You want to open the business. You want to do. You have aspiration. You have an idea that you cannot sleep. You are like, I must write it down, make sure I not forget. And then you are so happy about this. You're telling to your best friend, your best authority. You want to share it. And this authority in your eyes shits on it. Sorry for my language. And that's not that authority makes sense. You believe in it. You believe in it, and then it's not making happen. And that's the majority of the humanity. Most people just they in such a habit mode that they no longer even looking at a bigger picture. You know, they are so into today from 9 to 10 I'm coming home, kids to sleep, whatever, say hi, whatever, dinner, watch Netflix, go to sleep, repeat. Friday is gonna be different. Friday we're gonna go for a bar and meeting for maybe Shabbat or something like that. Back to normal. Bills, tax, bills for the car, gas, this is such a habit that actually you use probably 5% of your brain, because it was already been proven by scientists. Most people use 5% of their brain. But when you start taking your life and the bigger picture, giving meaning to it, what about if it's not 5%? How about you're going to use 100% of it? And that's possible. And that is almost like you going to the gym, boxing gym, and you don't know nothing about it. But you have to train. You have to start learning how the boxing stance, what kind of punches, uppercut, hook, straight punch, combinations. Then you learn how to deal with it, how you learn with your stamina, and it's big project, and it takes time, and most of its journey is going to be failure. It's going to be trial and error. And most of the people, they giving up in the first stages of that trial and error. They cannot take more than 3 errors and they done. I tried it, done. But perseverance, that's consistently being the savage. You're learning on yourself. When we're driving the car, you don't think. Your brain is on this 5%. Your brain knows where to turn and follow the directions. That's not you. You is way bigger than you. You is something, the most mysterious creature out there, And me personally, I would like to think that what I'm saying is I believe in it, and I had so many people telling me, this idea is shit, you are shit. And when I was believing those ideas, I was shit, because if someone telling another person, and this coach of mine was authority, when he tells me that I'm most untalented boxer that he ever worked with, I believed in it. I believed in it, that I knew, I was telling myself, like, I'm a talented person. And same thing with you, whatever your personal life, it's a big topic. It's a big topic, and that's requires, I urge you to do research of expanding your horizons. It's not just school you go. It's you are. I give you as a joke, for example. It's not a joke actually. It's a Chabad joke. But at every Chabad joke, I have a little bit of wisdom in it. And Rab Zusha, there used to be like this big rabbi in Onipol. Onipol is like I think now it's former Belarus, the little village. This little village, and there's this big tzaddik, big rabbi. His name is Zusha from Anipol, and he was telling his. I actually heard that story when I was, I think, second or third class in with this rabbi. But it's kind of resonated with me. He says he was telling his students, not students, his disciples or whatever, students. He's telling, after 120, when you are standing next to the throne of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, the God. What do you think you're going to say to me? God is not going to say, oh, Zusha, 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 why didn't you become like Moshe Rabbeinu? No, he's not going to say that. And the students, so what are you going to say? They say, Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to say, Zusha, why didn't you become the Zusha you meant to be? You know? And we all have the inner Zachary, inner Baruch, inner Rachel, or Raquel, sorry. You know, like, why don't you become that person that you meant to be, you know? And of course, on the 5% of our mind, you know, that we're using through our daily routine, it's hard to achieve. And
Right.
just example, when you wake up in the morning, you put on your, you know, you get up on the left side and right side, you don't think about it. You're getting up, you put your slippers, or if you have slippers, for example, you brush your teeth, you know, you are doing this, you're half asleep, you check your phone right away for notifications, you are checking your Instagram, your Facebook, whatever it is, you know, checking your emails, making coffee or tea, whatever your preferences, and till that point, or whatever you're putting clothes on, till that point, you didn't use you. That was just a habit. That was just an animal. The animal that within us, that is, I don't know if you guys meditate, for example. You try meditation before?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So, you know, it's interesting because when you are closing your eyes and your mind is like, oh, no, it's hard. And that's when you have to remove your boxing gloves or your gloves, remove your hat, and they say, you close your eyes and sit there till I tell you it's done, you know? And you meditate, and your mind is going like, oh, I need to be this, I need to do this. Shh, quiet.
I think that's pretty good lessons. You ever think about being like a teacher with like your smicha, like maybe like even at YU? Like, would you ever want to like after your? Well, I was also going to ask you about that too. Like,
so if I have to be, do I need my wife told me if you need at least if you want to have some kind of a pedigree, you need first GDE. You know, you have to still finish your high school.
get that one yet either?
Huh?
You didn't get your GDEs yet.
I didn't get it. She told me that actually you can do it online these days. I should do it. I just look. My whole.
You seem very smart. Like, I don't know.
The thing is, I have at least since the beginning, I had a good habit of reading books. My mom instilled that in me like since I was 6 or 5, 6 probably, and I was like reading books. I like reading books, and I like rabbis that can stimulate your mental and also your spiritual. You know, I like trainers like that because when I there was like hi, thank you. Like invisible, I should say, wow, Baruch Hashem for light. So like same thing with coaches, you know, like when you're going to the gym, for example, if you have a private, for example, or a coach you're working with, some coaches like, okay, how are you? Like, you know, like then professors could be the same way. Okay, you know, but there are some guys who just like get this fire within you going, and you like motivate you, and you're like you were tired before, and now I wanna hit this bag for 10 rounds, you know, like something that is about people that they do this is it's pretty cool, you know. This fire, they just like so that look, it would be like if you want me to talk more, if it'd be beneficial at all, and to speak more to fellow Jews or non-Jews as well, because I think I separating. You know, especially now living in Crown Heights, you know, it's a mixed neighborhood, Jews and blacks, and before COVID, it was quite a few attacks on Jews here in this neighborhood, literally daily. You never see this in the news, though. You see, things happen to black people, things happen to Asians now, but Jews, I'll tell you what. Um, everybody why everybody? You've seen the movie Rocky, for example.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I love Rocky.
Why everyone like movies like Rocky or sports or this? Because by nature, just it's a human psychic. I think not psychic. I think just human mentalities. People love the story of the underdog. You know, they love a person biting the dust and then rising to the high. You know, people love. He was at the high. He tasted the bottomless pit out there, and then he got himself. It picked him up, and then he got it back. You know, and that's what. It's a kind of a miniature of kind of a metaphor for boxing. You know, boxing is like a small metaphor for life. You know, you get it. Now, Jews, if people love underdogs, people should be looking for the Jewish story. You know, we've been underdogs more than any nation in the world. We've been persecuted, we've been killed, we've been raped, we've been massacred in masses, and the most tragic emotion that ever been, that it was, you know, unlikely, but us, when mothers and kids were all shot and burned in the light in the huts, like since I'm in Belarus, and when the Nazis came in the Second World War, you know, like there was Eisengruppen. It was like a cleaning squad. You know, they was just going into Belarus, and they just killed everyone. My grandma used to tell me that. You know, my great grandma used to tell me. Kind of night stories for me to sleep in. So there's such a hate. We are, for some reason, have such a bad PR. I don't know why. If we are running the world, we should have a better PR.
Yeah.
The Jews running the world, that's Jews then have a very bad PR guy, you know.
So, sort of related to that world topic, in 2009, after having a 27-0 professional record, you went up against Daniel Santos for the WBA World Boxing Association light middleweight title. So can you talk about the build-up to that fight, and what about that, and becoming a world champion? And then also, there's a famous picture of you holding the championship belt with an Israeli flag behind you. So what did it mean for you to become the first Israeli, I think, Jewish boxing champion ever?
Thank you. Question. So I'm still Israeli citizen, and I'm planning on having Israeli citizenship because I came from there. There's a part of my development as at that time, at least, from teenager to young adulthood. I was in Israel, and Israel was a big part of my upbringing, I think, living and training with Arabs. At that time, not living with Arabs, training with Arabs. Sorry, I should have kind of put it in the same sentence, but yeah, I was doing separately. So I bring always Israeli flag to my locker room or before the fight, just because it's important. You know, it's important. It's when you are facing some challenges in life. Sometimes it's helpful, or self-help. You're putting those little engraved images in front of you, so to speak. You know, Israeli flag, picture of, let's say, my mom, my parents. You know, sometimes you have to appreciate, gratitude. It's a huge word. It's more than just gratitude. Gratitude. but the feeling and emotion behind this, when you truly experience gratitude, it's profound. It's one of the most important energies that you can if you know how to. Um, anyway, it's good to release gratitude into the world. I was in the locker room in MGM Grand. It was in Las Vegas. I got to the look. I over from top 10. I started progressing towards the position number 1. You know, the contender for the world title to fight Daniel Santos. Daniel Santos was a very seasoned fighter. He was a 3-time already world champion at that time. He had more knockouts, I believe, than I had fights. You know, and I did like one of the mistakes. Like 3 days before, I usually never read the press. What they writing. You know, like I have this notification on Google at that time. Like anytime somebody writes an article, it sends me the email with my name in it. Your name it was mentioned in this article, and I was not reading it. But 3 days before the fight, for the first time, I kind of read it. I kind of read. It was because the title of the article kind of got my curiosity. It was the experts of boxing predicting what's going to be Santos and Foreman versus Foreman, and I looked at it. It was a very close article. It was just like this. Most of them they predict it's going to be a very short night, and Daniel Santos is going to win by knockout 4th or 5th round. You know, so and those are experts in boxing, and I gave them authority in my mind and my heart. So when I read it 3 days before the fight, my heart sank. I lost any kind of strength. My legs became rubber. I couldn't even get up from the chair. I'm fighting for the world title, and that was a shitty moment to be in. I had to somehow like slap myself out of it. And look, anytime I travel, I already been in Vegas. At that time, I was already in Vegas because I was reading this article in Vegas. Israel flag is there. Picture of my mom. My mom passed away in '97, so when I was still a teenager. So she was a big role in my life. So every single fight, I kind of give her thanks in my heart for because thanks to her, I'm experiencing all this, and I have a chance to other people will experience through me, perhaps. And at that time, I felt like, who are these experts? They don't know. Like 99% of these experts, they never been in boxing gym. They just watching a lot of sports. They know a lot of like Max Kellerman, for example. I have a lot of respect for Max Kellerman. He knows. He's like PhD of boxing, but he never been in boxing ring, So what he say, I understand it. This is your opinion, Just like in when you study, just like in Talmud, they say yesh omrim, Somebody say this, they say there's other opinions of them, And it's not important what their opinions. That's my opinion. That's what's going to be my opinion on the fight. So I just told myself, we'll see about this experts. So my fight was a co-main event. It was a fight right before Manny Pacquiao and Miguel Cotto, and I was in the locker room, and you hear noises, you hear the people banging on the floor, but this is my ceiling. Somebody get knocked out. You hear the sound like whoo, the roar. It's a little bit scary, You're warming up, you're putting your gloves, you're warming up, you're trying not to concentrate. You're thinking like, I'm here for the reason. If you don't believe in it, you can tell yourself all sorts of mantra. I'm the best, I'm the champion, I'm the this, da-da. It's not gonna work unless you. And then since it's HBO, everything have to be on time. So somebody got knocked out right before me, and I have to be there. And they say, Foreman, you're next, 15 minutes. And then like, shit. It sounded like, Foreman, 15 minutes. I got scared, and I'm sitting. I'm never showing my emotions. My coach is with me, and that's when I'm like, before stepping up to the rink, I'm sweating, I'm like, my coach got covered, like, I put the robe on, and I'm like sitting, staring at my shoes, my gloves, doing this thing, and I'm like, holy shit, like, I was like, I'm coming from Belarus, 10,000 miles away, whatever it is, whatever the exact distance. I traveled to Israel. I box with the Arabs. I visit the Wailing Wall. Like I put my requests in it. Before I came to the United States, this is, like, please God help me to be world champion. Like, and now I went through all this 28 fights. All this winning fights, but like, the preparation for each of this fight was so different. It was trial and error. I was getting hit a lot. I was getting all sorts of punishment. Literally, if there's no tears, there's a lot of blood, and there's preparations, and then I'm sitting like, shit, this is it. This is it. All this that I wrote at that time was like, I don't know, 9, 10 years ago. I was like, that's the moment. That's the moment. I'm gonna go out there right now, and I'm gonna make it happen. Because this is the way. I believe in this. It gave me so much strength to believe in it. And then I'm making my way to the ring. You're going to the ring, and there's this roar of all the Puerto Ricans fans. You're gonna give a credit to Puerto Ricans because they come in masses to support their fighter. Plus Miguel Cotto was fighting in the main event, so there was like thousands and thousands of them. As a joke, though. Jews don't come in masses. But when the Jews come in, even 10 of them, they make sure get the best tickets, So when the thousands of fighters are coming in, and they screaming all sorts of profanities towards me, the judo, like this and this, I felt like I'm going. I'm like Jesus Christ with a cross walking, and I just pushing and throwing some shit at me. Bad analogy, by the way. Not like Jesus Christ, but not like Yeshua. Anyway, and then I'm making my way in, and I was already focused. Looking straight in the light at the end of the tunnel, which is rink and the lights. Coming in, they introduced me, and I start fighting. The guy gained like 19 pounds over the night, over Shabbat. Gained a lot of weight, 19 pounds. And my coach told me right before the first round, it's like, Yuri, we're changing the strategy. He gained 19 pounds. We're gonna go for 6 rounds. You're gonna be moving like never before, and the next 6 rounds we're gonna pick up the tempo, and you're gonna take it to deep waters. And that's what has happened. I moved for a lot of rounds, and I won the title, and it was surreal. And I have the belt.
What?
In here in an apartment, but like, surreal. You're coming. It's like, wow. It hits you maybe a couple of weeks later. Wow. Since I was 7 years old, I wanted to win one, and then you own it. You are having it, and it's nothing, no difference. Still have to stay focused.
Yeah, I mean, I guess to wrap up, so like last, this was so inspiring. Like, thank you so much for coming.
Of course.
So, like last, like it's like a kind of 2-part question. Like after you won the title, the next fight, I think like you mentioned Miguel Cotto, so he beat you in the next fight, and then right after that, I think Miguel Cotto lost to Floyd Mayweather Jr. So did you ever want to fight Floyd Mayweather? And then also, I noticed that like in 2017 you fought again for the title, but at that time you lost. And then after a 4-year break, you came back and fought again this past January. or in 2020? Like, are you officially retired? And also, do you ever want to fight Floyd Mayweather?
So I'm not retired. I'm still fighting. I feel good.
Professionally?
Huh?
Like you're fighting professionally still?
Still fight professional. My goal is to fight for the world title. I fought for the title 4 years ago. Fought Erislan de Lara, and I pretty much after Miguel Cotto fight, I had a very hard years of losing a few people in my life, and actually main person in my life was my manager, and it was my Rockin' supporter, and I had the kind of dark few years, and that time I had to kind of be part of the movie like Rocky. You have to kiss the dust, so to speak, and continue. So I was not even near of my performance in that fight, or my condition, or my preparation. It was very stupid of me even to fight that fight, honestly. But things now changed to complete night and day. I have a wife that Shoshana. She's also a doctor, and she's my rock and supporter. And I feel honestly like mentally and spiritually I feel great, but physically I feel nothing different than I was 20. So at age 40, I've been always eating healthy. I've been always exercising, and I don't drink. So my boxing style is it's to hit and not to get hit. So it was kind of now I'm not. It's a more of a Jewish boxing style. It's about you. I'm gonna hit you, but you're not gonna hit me. All right, make the deal. I would love to fight Floyd, but Floyd kind of he's a semi-retired. There's a few fighters coming back, like Oscar de la Hoya, and Miguel Cotto is coming back. They have exhibition in the next couple of months. It would be nice down the road to get one of them, and just showcase. And maybe it's going to be Hanukkah again.
Man. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much for speaking to us. This was so fun.
Of course. It took a little bit longer than we planned. I know.
It was fun. It was great. Thank you so much.
Great. Much blessing. Listen, guys, we're living in pandemic. 3 things that you should be actually keeping in mind: exercising and eating good, a healthy, balanced nutrition, and sleeping enough, at least 8 hours. These 3 things gonna gives you boosting your immune system. And now we need a lot of immune system. All right.
Man.
Helps also your immune system, your spiritual immune system. All right, guys. Zach.
Yeah. Pleasure. Thank you so much.
And we'll be in touch. All right, guys. Ciao. Bye.
Have a good one.
You too.